Welcome back to Homeschooling to College on the Liberated podcast. This is our fourth and final episode in our four-part series that Kym Kent and I are doing on Homeschooling to College. We are really excited about today's episode because this features our two homeschooled seniors, Molly and Samuel, who we've been talking about in the three previous episodes as they've kind of gone through the admissions cycle as homeschoolers, lifelong homeschoolers, this year as seniors. And now for this final episode, bringing them on to share their experiences, their perspectives on what it's been like going through the college admissions process as seniors. So, and I'd really encourage you, if you haven't listened to the first three episodes in this series, to go ahead and do that. Kym and I had a lot of fun talking about this process through the parent perspective, and now really excited to have the student perspective. And it's funny, Kym, when we started this series, we thought we would, by this point in episode 4, have all the answers. That I certainly thought by April 1st, when most college decisions would be in, that we would just kind of know what is happening for the fall and where our seniors would be starting school. And this would just be, a big finale. And yet we don't know yet, right? And neither Molly doesn't know yet, Samuel doesn't know yet. Lots of great options, amazing opportunities ahead. It's just sort of picking which ones. And so that's yet another surprise that we don't know. And so first, let me just welcome everybody to the Liberated podcast. Samuel, Molly, Kym, welcome back. Thanks for being here. And Kym, Kym, you said that you are right now, because we're sort of telling the story as we're living it, which was really the intent with this series, keeping it real.
Oh my word.
And keeping it real in the sense that you are, not long after we record this, heading off on a major road trip to visit some of these colleges. Molly has already gone on a few admitted students days and events that have been really fascinating.
Crazy.
And there's just so much to consider. Tell us what's on deck for you over the coming week.
Yeah, it's almost wild. I almost want to warn the audience, like, strap in as I share what this next week, 10 days looks like. And actually, I will share with you, literally, we had just another college enter into this agenda. So literally strap in.
Just today, you said you got another college acceptance.
Just this afternoon.
Amazing.
It's crazy. So when we talk about this thing, that we're doing this thing live and in living color, that is so real. That's so real. So what I love is that Thursday is our last day before we go on spring break, right? So that's Thursday. Pajama day. I'm so grateful for that. Friday morning, we're going 3 hours away to the Eastern Shore to visit University of Maryland Eastern Shore, their aeronautics program, because Samuel's been accepted. And we've got to talk to those folks. We got to visit the tour, visit the campus, talk to the folks at in financial aid. That's Friday. Saturday, we have to go back across the Bay Bridge because part of this whole process for him becoming a commercial airline pilot is that he's undergoing an FAA first class medical exam. For those of you who don't know, there are a number of things. This medical exam wasn't something that we could go to our primary care physician and do. This is something that is definitely going to happen out of pocket. But he's got to go through this process because a number of the schools, they're going to be looking for this type of physical. And, we had the option first class, second class, third class. There really wasn't a major difference between third class and first and second. And we're like, you know what? Since we're going for it, we are literally going for it. We're going to go ahead and do the first class physical. So he undergoes that first class physical Saturday morning. Sunday, of course, is Palm Sunday. Monday morning, 6 a.m. We are on the road driving to Florida. We are going down to Jacksonville. We're going to stay with some friends in Jacksonville. So, that's a 12. I don't even know. That's without stops. It's 12 hours, y'all. Without stops, it's 12 hours. It's going to be longer than that. That's Monday. Tuesday morning, we get up. We're driving from Jacksonville down to Daytona Beach to visit Embry-Riddle, where he's already been accepted and has got scholarship money there. So we're touring them, talking to their aviation program, talking to their financial aid piece, getting the best deal that we can for him there. That's Tuesday. Wednesday, and we're going to see grandma. Then we're going to Wednesday. We're back in Jacksonville. We're visiting, it's crazy. We're back visiting Jacksonville University, who so far has given him the best so far, but we're visiting their college campus. And then their aviation program only does tours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, that Tuesday they've got maintenance, so they can't do anything. Thursday, listen, remember when we said before in one of the prior episodes, we said no does not necessarily mean no. To go ahead and ask the questions, call, ask for the impossible, and trust and believe that it's going to happen. So they had no space. We called and said, hey, listen, we're coming from Maryland. We want to come and see your program. Guess what? On Wednesday, is that Wednesday, Thursday? Thursday, he goes and is meeting with the aviation folks there. That's Thursday.
Great.
Friday, we've got to drive back, but now we're adding a stop to what is it? UME, what is that? UMES, what does that say?
Oh, ECSU. Elizabeth City
ECSU,
State
right? I don't even know all the names. There's so many, right? East Carolina.
So many acceptances.
Right, so many acceptances. We're going there, visiting their aviation program, talking to their financial aid people, and getting every single thing that we can, finding a deal there. We get back in home just in time for Easter. And then as soon as we finish celebrating Easter, that afternoon, as soon as the Easter service is over, we're driving over to Ohio to go spending the night with my uncle in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, because Monday, again, making the phone call, even though they said they don't have any openings. So sorry. Guess what? Easter Monday, we're going to be at the Ohio State University talking to those folks. And remember, again, we go back to this idea of no doesn't necessarily mean no. Look at all these acceptances that he's got. A number of them just because we said, wait a second, let's ask, let's inquire, let's push, and let's find out what is actually possible. And so again, y'all, that is so wild. When I think about all the things that we're doing, my car is going to have so many miles on it.
Yeah.
It's like a whole oil change and a half happening there.
I thought April would be, really calm, really, we wouldn't have anything on the calendar,
Not for the Kent family.
Sailing. And yet, yeah, same here. Lots of admitted students events.
Right.
Lots of things to consider, weighing different programs, merit scholarships, just all of all good problems to have, good opportunities.
Right. Of all the things that we can complain, and trust me, folks, we are not complaining.
Right.
This is the best position to be in.
Yeah.
And it is truly the most exciting time to be able to share this with our kids. Knowing that, again, they were in an unconventional space.
Yes.
And yet, even in this unconventional space, the incredibly exciting things that we get to experience as their parents, that we get to walk with them. And we're so happy to take you along the ride of our lifetimes, right, with our kids.
Right.
It's just amazing.
And then again, giving hope to homeschooling families that homeschooling through high school.
Yes.
On to college is possible, and not only possible, but you might be surprised at just how many options you have and all the decision making that goes along with that, which is again really exciting. So let's hear from Molly and Samuel, if we could, which I think is really the fun part of today's episode. And Kym, I know you had some wonderful questions. I'd love to start with some of yours, and then I can chime in as well, but love to start with one of yours.
Yes. And really in no particular order. There were so many questions that I had for the two of you, for you, Molly, and for you, Samuel, because we really do want, we've been talking these last few episodes about our perspective, from the parents' perspective, but we really want to hear from you all. So first question, of course, is what are some of the surprises that you experienced? For example, what were some of the preconceived notions that you had going in about the college application process that ended up surprising you in either, how either they weren't true or maybe how they were just were different from what you anticipated?
Yeah.
What were your surprises?
Yeah.
Molly, do you want to go first?
Sure, that's my son. I mean, my son is a perfect gentleman. He will always say ladies first.
Thank you, Samuel.
Yeah. I think one of the things that honestly surprised me was past the early part of getting letters from my mom and dad for the counselor reports and working out transcripts and everything like that. It wasn't too different to apply as a homeschooler. I
Hmm.
think in the back of my mind, I was worried that, like, oh, it's going to be so different. I'm going to have to be reaching out to all these admissions offices explaining, like, I have a weird transcript. I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
Is there any way I can apply through the normal route, the Common App? And it really wasn't that different. There's a lot of options for like the drop downs. There's homeschooling as an option,
Hmm.
and that was really nice. But on the other hand, something that I maybe expected would be a bit easier was supplemental essays.
Hmm.
Um, I applied to a lot of schools that had many supplemental essays. Um, and I somehow thought, like, oh, once I get the personal statement done, it'll be much easier. I can kind of fly through the rest of the applications. And that was not the case. I was submitting them down to the last week, just trying to get those essays done. So those were two surprises.
I see
What about
Sam is
you?
shaking his head
Yeah,
with you in
there were
agreement.
so
Oh,
many essays I had to
the
write for this.
essays. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Some of them were really fun to write. Some of
Hmm.
them seemed a bit repetitive at a point.
Oh my gosh, I can
Oh
completely
goodness.
understand.
Yeah, how
I
about
can't tell you
you?
how many times I copy and pasted an essay and just changed some words around.
Oh yeah.
And then what really surprised me is because I was always told that applying would be kind of expensive because a lot of people say that there's all these fees involved. I didn't pay a single dime. Not 1 cent came out of my bank account applying for all these colleges. I think it was like 14, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It was a crazy amount. And what really surprised me was no one a lot of the colleges didn't respond or took a very long time to send anything back to me. So I was kind of like, did they get my application? I had to call some of them saying, "Hey, am I in your system?"
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was a bit worrying at times, but
Yeah, but because it took a while to get some of the portal links.
Oh
Is that,
yeah.
yeah.
Trinity.
yeah,
I
Hmm.
applied to a Trinity college. I think it took a month and a half.
Yeah.
which you got
I
into,
I
we'll
did. I
say.
did.
Yeah, like 2 days
So
ago, I just got one from Hampton University down in Hampton, Virginia, and that was the second email they've ever sent me. They
oh,
sent that I got that they got my letter back in like February, and then now in April, I think it was like April 7th. I think it was yesterday. They finally said, "Oh, you got in," and so yeah,
I know one school didn't even notify me. I just logged
Wow.
into the portal.
Oh,
Oh,
that you
you just had
got
to look
an
in the
Yeah.
acceptance.
portal?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
logged into the
That was,
portal and there it
yeah.
was.
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
mean, you got places like for me, Kent State. They were sending me almost daily emails of different things I should be aware of as I was getting ready to
Oh yeah.
apply or getting ready for my decision and post decision stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
would
So
say
just the
of all of them,
difference
yeah.
the difference in communication
Hmm.
post application submission
Yeah.
varied by
Hmm.
school and was maybe surprising one way or the other. And then just Samuel, just to clarify too, not paying a cent for applying, that's because it's very simple to ask for fee waivers when
Yep.
Hmm.
Oh,
applying to
100%.
colleges. And Kim
Right.
and I talked about this in one of our earlier episodes, but never let that be something dissuading you from applying somewhere. It's very
Yeah.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we said, they want you. They want to
Yeah,
apply because they see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is
yeah.
I'm going to have this student here for 4 years and I'm going to have tuition for 4 years. So, that 30, $50, it's a drop in the bucket. Of course, that I look at that and kudos to the colleges. They see that. I'm hoping what they see is that that's an investment. They see that that's an investment. Our waiving that fee can potentially mean that we've got 4 years and maybe more if that child goes on, if that student goes on to grad school.
Yeah. And a lot of
So,
colleges post fee waivers on like Instagram. I
I've
believe I
seen
found one
them.
for like Embry-Riddle, Kent State, and
mhm,
I think I found one for Jacksonville as well off there.
mhm,
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really really easy to find fee waivers.
Yeah. And then we would call to follow up and say, hey, is it? And they would think, oh, yeah, use that. So, they're posting it themselves to say, hey, go ahead and use this because we want to see you. We want to put you into that pool of students that are going to apply for our college. So, yeah. All right. So another
So,
question I had. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
well, I was
I
just
want to
gonna
go.
because I think it's relevant that I want you to ask your next question, Kim, but just related to this kind of after you click submit, what happens, very different depending on the college or university.
Mhm.
Some colleges and universities, at least that Molly applied to, had interviews. So she got some interview requests. And I thought there was one reflection that you had from one of your interviews that was just a sort of interesting question, and I thought would be relevant for both Molly and Samuel to answer here in light of our conversation. I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about that
share
interview.
that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I got, I think, 3 interviews across all the colleges, but this one was part of the regular decision, so later in spring, or like early, I think it was February. And it was for Yale University, and the interviewer asked, do you think your experience in homeschooling has prepared you more for college education than a traditional high school student? And I said yes, of course. I've been taking dual enrollment courses for 4 years now, ever since freshman year. I've been managing my own schedule across, all these 4 years, and even before then. I know at some of the admitted students events I've gone to, one of the things they say most will change in college is you have to make your own schedule. You have to, direct your own education, really. And that's something I've been doing for as long as I've been managing my own education. So that was something really interesting that they even asked that question.
So what would you say? I'm just curious what Samuel
I didn't
would
have
say.
an interview. I did not have one single one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
all mine were just kind of, they read my letter and then said, "You're good to go," for the most part.
And what about that? Well, how would you answer that question though, Samuel, about what was it again? How
do you think your homeschooling education has prepared you more for a college experience than a traditional high school student?
In some parts, yes, in terms of like writing and whatnot, because I've taken many years of IEW, which is Institute of Excellence of Writing. So writing, yeah, I think we personally do that better than most public schools do. But I guess for some people socially, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Socially, it might be different because like you took it at home, correct? Or did you go to a co-op?
I did kind of an independent homeschooling thing, so I've taken kind of classes all over the city and online and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, for us, I've gone to this co-op for my whole education, right? And so we have kind of a social norm kind of thing, I would say, where yes, we are social, but I wouldn't say, whereas we don't see as many people day to day as public schoolers do, I'd say.
Yeah, you're not in a class with like 1,000 people.
Yeah,
you're not sitting there in an environment where you've got like 45 kids to one instructor, for example. Yeah.
We're usually keeping it around 15, correct?
Yeah. Which is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and
the capability, to learn, because you get to learn.
This co-op, of course, is Extend Homeschool Tutorial, Kym, that you founded, that runs homeschool programs outside of DC for homeschoolers of all ages. So just, great to hear. Okay, Kym,
I did have a follow-up question because I'm really curious, Molly, when you responded that way, how was that received? Because I will tell you, I've experienced that with other parents where they said, they started asking me these questions. And then my response kind of took them aback and they were like, oh, it was something that they weren't expecting. So I'm very curious in their reception towards your response.
Yeah, I think, as you were saying, there was a bit of surprise there of, I hadn't even thought of that to begin with. But yeah, I think it was generally a positive response.
Sure.
There was, I think it's a perspective that not many people think through unless they have been homeschooled or worked with homeschoolers a lot. And I don't think this particular interviewer had. And so it was interesting to see the reaction of, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
So I actually want to follow up because that's one thing that actually just recently I had a conversation with, I was on a show with someone and they asked me about our program. And I said that one of the things that's really unique as a homeschooler, and especially for Extend Homeschool Tutorial, is that we have really our kids from day one, in elementary school, they're already involved in an environment where they're only meeting 2 days a week. For many students, for many kids that are coming out of a traditional setting where they're going to class 5 days a week, the idea of now going from, instead of 5 days a week, now I'm only going 2 days a week, and now I've got to arrange my schedule. I've got to figure out how to manage my time and all those things. Here at Extend, I know for our program, our students are doing that from day one. Because we only meet twice a week, they're already learning those skills. So it almost surprised me that Samuel didn't mention that, but I think part of that is because it's been ingrained in him. He already knows how to handle a twice a week. He already knows,
Right.
Going onto a campus, I'm going to have a Monday, Wednesday class, or I'm going to have a Tuesday, Thursday class. Well, that's just like Extend. I've been going Tuesday and Thursday all my life. And so that's not anything that he has to transition into, unlike many traditionally educated students, private or public, where they're 5 days a week, they're going in and they're showing up. And now all of a sudden they've got this freedom that they've now got to manage themselves with. So I think that is something, there is a lot to be said when you're an unconventional learner, when you're used to being in a parent-directed setting. And in your case, Molly, where you were literally self-directing, you were literally operating as a college student for many years before you've ever set foot on a college campus. And I think that's one of the strengths of what we do. So yeah.
Yeah, and maybe to follow up on that too, because I think this is something that Samuel mentioned. You did have some of the interviewers ask you about socializing, or I don't exactly know how they put it, but it's sort of this idea like how are you making friends and doing things with others within homeschooling? And how did you answer? Because it just shows that being social is just something we humans do. We don't need a traditional classroom in order to do that. But how did you respond?
Yeah, I always think that question is really hard to answer just because I'm constantly socializing. Like
exactly.
I have friends who I've had for years, who I've met at various places and classes and hang out with all the time, or I know people from work, or I know other kids from the college classes I go to, and I, work with them on whether it be like group projects or something completely different. It's
or
really
work.
Or I did say work, but yeah, I have worked with multiple jobs throughout high school and have been able to stay in touch with people from all of them and hang out with people from work. It's just such a natural thing. I don't think about it too much.
Yeah, because that's what we do, right? That's what we're out in the public, we're out and about. We joke, and I think I was saying we need to stop calling it homeschooling and instead parent-led education, because I don't know of many homeschools that are actually home. Most of the time we are out and about in society, communicating. Samuel too, part-time job, working with folks and being out in the public and being able to manage himself that way. There's so much socialization that happens. But anyway, all right, let's get back to this.
Just because we're like homeschooled.
Go ahead, Samuel.
We are busier than most people. We are like never home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they got that. I feel like from what you said, I mean, I obviously wasn't there, but I feel like I find this in other conversations when people have asked, what about socialization with homeschooling? Once you explain a little more about the fact that you are always out, that it really should be called outschooling, not homeschooling, then people kind of get it. And then it becomes less of an issue. And I always say that I'm so ashamed, but years ago, when I met my first homeschooler, when I was a senior in college, my first question to them was, what about socialization? So I cringe when I think about that now, but it's sort of that
you didn't know.
It's sort of that knee-jerk question, and then all it takes is a little bit of insight to realize that's it's just not an issue.
Yeah. It isn't. So, Molly and Samuel, what would you want parents to know? Like, what would you say to those parents in terms of things that you needed, or things that benefited you, or things that you would have liked to have happened differently? Can you speak to the parents that may be going through this, or maybe thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to go through this with my student. What from the student perspective are some pieces of advice that you would give to parents? Hey, parents, this is what we need, or maybe if we could do this differently, or this really helped me. Can you speak to that?
I would say just start early, like start in the fall. I didn't start till I think January, December, and I missed some dates to some schools I was pretty interested in
Mhm,
because I started later compared to most.
mhm,
Mhm. I think something that I've noticed both with my own parents and with friends' parents who are also homeschooled and going through this whole process is once you submit the application, you don't need to worry about it. You've
Yeah.
done your best. You've done your research. You've done all of your work with transcripts and with counselor letters. Um, and as long as you're prepared, you've done it. You've gone through the
mhm,
process, and now you get to look forward to the future and college and all that fun stuff.
I think that's such an interesting point because I think that maybe this is something that's a little bit different applying as a homeschooler than if you were applying from a conventional high school
mhm,
because you sort of I mean at least I'll speak for myself. I sort of felt
mhm,
like did I miss anything?
mhm,
Maybe I should have said this instead in the
mhm,
counselor letter, or
mhm,
should we have added this on the transcript? So there is that sort of sense of responsibility
sure.
that I think, again, if you were just going through, if the guidance counselor was completing that, counselor letter on the Common App from a traditional school would not have been there, that sort of sense of,
Mhm,
I just want, I just want to make sure that nothing I did hinders your chances, right? And that I think is something I hadn't really expected to feel. And I
mhm.
felt that, but
Yeah.
you're kind of saying, just give yourself some
You're
grace, let
good.
it
Yes,
Yeah.
go.
you did well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So what were the highlights? Like what was like the oh my goodness? What were the highs? What were the oh and how did you overcome those?
Oh, I think the highs are, of course, finally submitting your applications and then
Hmm.
opening the decisions. Both of
Hmm.
those were crazy times. I think more so for the former, where I was simultaneously submitting um, essays and letters and everything, while also still writing more essays for
Hmm.
other schools. But I think the most exciting part was just at the end, opening all my letters and knowing
Hmm.
I get to decide now where I'm going to
Yeah.
college. I get to do research and look into all these
Hmm.
schools.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. No, but yeah, just kind of knowing that all the years of hard work and whatnot are kind of finally paying off, you know? And then, highlight definitely getting in with scholarship money as well.
Hmm.
Them showing to you that they want you, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
easy to
quite
see.
exciting. Yeah. And
Exactly.
yeah, of course getting accepted is crazy thrill, you know?
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously the acceptances, but then for both Samuel and Molly, getting merit scholarships as homeschoolers, right?
Yeah.
Is just, I think, another validation
Hmm.
that this is a legitimate path that can lead to great success in the college admissions process.
Yeah. So good. So good.
So
So
I
good.
wonder, for Samuel Molly, now that, it's April, where there's lots of decisions to be made, what are some of the things you're thinking about? Like Samuel, you mentioned, or your mom mentioned going on this kind of wild tour all over the place over a 10-day period and, visiting schools. Molly has been to some admitted students events, has more to come. What are you both thinking about as you narrow down your choices? What are some of the things you're weighing here?
Molly, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things I've been looking at is like outcomes after college.
Hmm.
Mm,
I looking to study mathematics, hopefully go in a more academic route. So I quite like to go to grad school after undergraduate education, and I'm looking at what kind of schools offer good avenues for that, and what I'd be able to do with my major, and how good the different departments are for mathematics at the schools I'm looking at, and of course looking at you know what are the different opportunities there? Am I able to do research and internships and all those kinds of things, along with, of course, looking at scholarships and all that. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was more because I'm going the aviation route. I was seeing what airlines hire from what schools, and to see which ones have the most secured job opportunities. Like for to find my list personally, I went to a bunch of aviation or airline websites and I picked out them, and then I filtered by like location, and then I would go and search up people's like how the quality of life was on campus, because some people, it might have a good program but the quality of life, it's not a good trade-off. And then price and whatnot, and all those factors play a point
I've heard I've,
into your decision at the end of the day. And
I've
then
heard I've heard
what's up?
food is a big consideration for
Is it?
a lot of kids. Is the
I can I
food
can I
good?
can understand that. Yep.
The food, the dorms, yeah.
Hmm.
What's the feel? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be something. There's a part of me, I have to say, there's a part of me that when we started, I was thinking, okay, well, we might have to do like a post show.
I think we might. I mean, I
I
thought
really
that
do.
we
I
would
think
have
we
this
might have to
wrapped
do a
up,
post
Kim.
show because here we are, just like you said,
Right.
Carrie, at the beginning, we would have thought that by now we'd say, okay, so this is where we're leaning towards. And really, there's still this slate. There's still this. I imagine when we get home, I envision us having all of these, and I'm sure Molly, you can relate to this, having all of these options. That was something else I wanted to say. What I love, I said this before recently. What I love is that even though we're in the unconventional space, and I think because of that, the schools don't pick us. We get to
Hmm.
pick the schools. There's
Mhm.
so
Yes.
much power in that, in knowing that, hey, we didn't have to just, oh, we go with whoever chose us. But because of the strength of what we've done, because we've given our kids the opportunity to pursue their dreams and unlock the incredible gifts that are inside of them, they literally, they're in the driver's seat. They get to choose the school. The school doesn't choose them. It's their choice. I think there's such strength in that. Um, but anyway, I digress. But I love that. And I do feel like we're going to have to do a post show that says, okay, this is where we ended up. And this is why we chose what we chose.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah. We are
amazing.
still
Yeah.
in the
Mhm.
deciding space,
Mhm.
and then I think visiting schools as
Mhm.
an admitted student has a different feel to it than on the tours that Molly went on last year, right?
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
feel like it's
Oh,
a little bit of a different
absolutely.
experience? And
Yeah.
um you can say, are these my people, or is this my campus? Is this the
Mhm.
kind of environment that I want to be in? It can be
Mhm.
really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to try to do some kind of video vlogging of whatever of our tour of
Ooh,
these
Ooh.
Kim?
different, yeah, of these
Yes.
different as we go to each school. What does
Yeah.
it look like? What is that perspective from the student perspective and even from the parent perspective? What does this really look like? I think I'm in my head. I'm doing that. And we'll drop
Yeah.
that. I'm going to hand it, Carrie, I'm going to hand it to you and go, okay, here you go. What do you want to do
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah.
Um,
I wonder,
yeah.
thinking back, this is sort of related to Kim's question, but anything that you might have done differently now,
Mm.
Mm.
having gone through the process, and Molly's the oldest of my four, so kind of we're going through this the first time with her. I feel like the others now are going to have much more awareness, and I'll have much more awareness. So
Mhm.
Kim, we'll have to come back and do this again
Oh, for
with
sure.
our younger ones who are
Yeah.
going through this. But
Yeah.
but what do you think, sort of looking back, things that you would have done differently that you think we should have done I should have done
Mhm.
differently as a homeschooling
Yeah.
parent in the college applications process?
Yeah.
Molly, you wanna
I
go
can start.
first?
Yeah, absolutely. I would start prepping earlier, similarly to what Samuel said. The earlier, the better.
Mhm.
I started sort of towards the end of last summer, and I feel like I still could have started earlier, especially because I did a good few early action schools where you have to apply like late October, early November. And so definitely having started earlier would have been nice. I think also I applied to too many schools. Um,
No such
looking
thing.
back,
So
perhaps,
Samuel says no such
perhaps,
thing.
perhaps. But I think, I don't know. If I was to do it again, I might apply to a few less, be more selective about where I did apply. But yeah, how about you?
Yeah. For that, I'd probably say do as many as you can for what you want to do. But yes, definitely start earlier. Just so you even I didn't start until this past December, so I got into very, very late compared to everyone else because everybody does it their junior year even, right? Like you said, you did last summer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then apply early, and then definitely go on tours early, like you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had this much more. You had it all
I had a full
together.
spreadsheet made up. I've
Yeah.
just been adding to my spreadsheet over the
Yeah.
months. It's been great.
Yeah. I'd also say probably don't be scared to call the school for different info.
Mhm.
Like I had to call almost every school for their email to send my transcript to because, they don't put that on their website. I think they should, but to each their own. All right. Um, yeah, but because the first couple I did have my mom call because I was a little nervous. But then after the next couple times, I got more comfortable with it, and I started just doing it on my own. At school during study hall or whatever, I'd get a call or call them saying, "Hey, what's the email to send yada yada?" Or, "Oh, it says that this hasn't processed yet. Can we see what's going on with that?" You know what I mean?
Well, and
Is
that
it?
must look good. I think it probably reflects well on you then,
Mhm.
as someone who's reaching out and, taking
Mhm.
the initiative, being proactive.
Yep.
I'm sure that the admissions officers thought highly of you from that
I
process.
hope so.
Yeah.
I would
Because
say that
that's,
was, yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
Mhm.
No, go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say that was one of the things that I noticed was the growth, even through, you and just to see that, to see the growth where, initially I was making the phone calls, but then Samuel really took on, he was his own agent. He was the one that was initiating these phone calls. And now I'm hearing, I will tell you, I'm hearing this for the first time. Oh, you were calling them on your break? Wow. You know, but knowing that he was so in that he invested, he owned this.
Yeah.
And he was the one making phone calls. He was the one saying, hey, I think we need to call them and see what we can work out here. Just to see that. And those are some of the skills that we want to see in our kids. Those are some of those skills, those soft skills that are going to carry them for the rest of their life. And knowing that they're actually doing that themselves. I think that's huge. And I think, and I'm just going to say this, but I think that's also another one of those benefits. Normally when you have a college counselor that's doing all that, they're doing that for you. But here we are, we're in the driver's seat. And part of that is literally empowering our kids for skills that they're going to use for the rest of their life. Advocating for themselves, communicating with folks that they don't know, they have got no history with, but being able to make those inroads. Those are powerful tools that we're able to give to our kids. So I'm really pleased with that. The other thing that I also wanted to follow up what Samuel said is that, yeah, he did get in this game late. But what I'm hoping that that does is provide a level of hope for the parents that are out there that are thinking, oh, I haven't done this. It's the
Yeah.
start of senior year and we really haven't thought this thing through and we're really just kind of getting onto the ball. I think what I love is that, at least for our sake, in the case of Samuel and me, we're hope to let you know that it's not too late. I mean, my goodness, y'all saw. I mean, I started out telling you what the next 10 days looks like. And that should provide such a measure of hope to know that it is never, never, never too late to do this, to get this process going for your kids. If that's what your kids, if they're college bound, if they've decided, you know what, I think I do want to do this college thing. It's never too late to do this.
Well, and even now, when
Mhm.
this airs in April, there are still colleges accepting applications. We talked with Rebecca Stewart-Orlowski, Kim, in our last episode, an
Mhm.
independent college admissions counselor, and
Mhm.
she indicated there are some colleges that have May deadlines.
I
There are
just got an
some.
email for one today. They were like, come
Right.
apply.
Yeah, and the Common App enables you to sort of search by application deadline. There's some colleges that have rolling admissions that will go
Mhm.
on through. So it's literally not too late if you have seniors. And then there's always those alternatives of going to do community college for a year and then transferring in.
Mhm. Or even do a gap year.
Or do a
Yeah.
gap
Yeah.
year. Yeah. Well, all
Mhm.
kinds of possibilities. So yeah, it's never too late. One other thing I think, and this has made me think when Samuel, when you were talking about reaching out to admissions counselors, one thing I don't think I realized, that might be a difference between homeschooled students and traditionally schooled students is that some schools have these big college fairs where admissions officers come and want to sort of sell you on the school so that you apply there. And at least in our area, I didn't know of any that would be sort of open to homeschoolers. There might be some elsewhere, yeah, others elsewhere that do. But I do think that in that way, being maybe more proactive, Samuel, like you were, was a good strategy because you don't have the admissions officers coming to you. You have to seek them out and maybe build those relationships, which isn't easier and isn't easy to do. And I would say that that's something that is more challenging as homeschoolers potentially.
But again, the process of that, what that builds, the character,
Yes.
to me, I look at that and say, but the character that's built in that process, the skills that are built, the confidence that gets built in that process, that is priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have other questions, Kym, that we could ask these ones?
I think, yeah, you know what? I would say, what do you want to say to the students that are your age? What do you want? What would you say to them? Like, what piece of advice would you give them? Maybe some folks that may be on the fence. I don't know if I can do this. What piece of encouragement would you want to give to those that may be watching this, maybe with their parents that are, I don't know, they're thinking, or maybe they haven't decided yet, or they just have no idea.
Current homeschoolers, Kym.
Current
Yeah.
homeschoolers.
Yeah.
Molly, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. You can do it. There are so many resources available to help. Go to online, local libraries. I feel like everyone and every resource that I reached out to was just so happy to help. I spoke with like professors at some schools, and I was able to do like online tours of some college campuses. So even if I wasn't anywhere near there, I was able to see the campus. And yeah, there's just so many resources available that it's not as daunting of a process as it seems. Definitely seems daunting, but it's doable. And I'm sure whoever might be listening can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not as hard as it sounds, and don't be terrified of it because at the end of the day, it's quite an easy process to do all these play. Sure, it's a lot of writing compared to most writing you'll do elsewhere, but it's going to be worth it in the end,
What are you both most excited about for freshman year? And we might have to have you back, to share some reflections at some point, right? Because this is ongoing, right, Kym?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to just hear what you're looking forward to most about freshman year.
Kind of partially being on my own, and then kind of just exploring the campus, the surrounding city as well, just kind of being on my own for once, It's a little scary though, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I suppose a similar thing for me. I'm looking forward to being on campus. I think, especially as homeschoolers, I interact with a lot of people of different ages and completely different backgrounds and trajectories. That to be on a campus with a bunch of other students who are roughly my age studying similar things or doing their own studies would be really, really fun. I'd love to just be in that environment, be able to study all the fun things.
Yeah. What about sort of clubs and extracurriculars? Anything you're
anything that y'all looking forward
some of
to
these schools
outside of the school? Yeah.
Some of these schools, I don't know what the ones you were looking at too, Samuel, but some of them have like hundreds of clubs. It's just like, how do you even begin to narrow it down? What do you think about
I am
that?
so excited for clubs. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm a big skier, and so everywhere I applied to made sure it had a ski club. I love skiing. I love teaching skiing. Um, and I've seen like a lot of places have like even academic based clubs. So like everywhere I've found has like trivia clubs. I love doing trivia. or like subject-based clubs like math club. I think it'll be really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Honestly, I didn't really look at it for clubs, but I think as I explore campus, I'll kind of learn more about myself,
Mhm.
and figure out what will interest me and what clubs are worth it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And I know a lot of schools do academic tutoring as well, just something I'm looking forward to. Something I've been able to like do online in high school,
Mhm.
but
As a
doing
peer
as a
tutor.
peer
Yeah.
tutor,
So yeah,
but
and
doing it
so
in
you
person would
could
be really
totally do
fun.
that. Let me just share with you, my daughter Samantha, when she was at PG at Anne Arundel Community College, was a math TA, was a math
Oh.
tutor. So at listen, as a homeschooler, right? You hear this, oh, as a homeschooler, you get no, 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 no. Absolutely. So to me, I'm looking at Molly, you're already doing it.
Right.
There's nothing that says that you can't from day one. I love this. From day one, walking on that campus and going, hey, I can be a tutor because I've already done it.
Mhm.
Hey.
Well, and that's another thing that we talked about too, Kim, in some of our earlier episodes, that
Mhm,
with dual enrollment, Samuel and Molly and other high school homeschoolers like that, like them,
mhm,
are doing college level classes in high school. So in
mhm,
many cases, you're able to, like in Molly's case, um, and end up skipping some of the earlier math courses, like earlier
mhm,
calculus, for example, into much
mhm,
more advanced math as a freshman, and then being able to maybe more quickly become a tutor and
mhm.
give back to the campus in that way too, I think is a
Yeah,
real benefit.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
excited.
It's
Exciting.
so
It
exciting.
is very, very exciting.
So in some ways, we do have lots of answers, Kim, this
Hmm.
April, but still lots of question marks. More
Lots of
admitted
question marks.
students events,
Yeah.
more weighing,
Hmm.
scholarships versus places that don't have scholarships, honors
Hmm.
programs versus those that don't have
Versus
honors
not on. Yeah.
programs,
Yeah.
different locations,
Hmm.
and really figuring it out. So yeah, we might have to do another
Yeah. Do a
episode because
post show.
we
We
are
might have to do a
just
post show.
not filled with the kind of
Wow.
wrapping it up with a little red bow yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I'm in. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm here for that post show for when they decide. I'm also really here for what that experience for them, for orientation. I would love, love to come back and say, what was it like for you when you first landed on campus? What was that orientation week like for you? What were some of the things that you experienced that you didn't realize that you were going to experience? What were some of the surprises? What were some of the highs? What were some of the lows? What are some of the things that you can share for people who will follow in your footsteps? What I love about this process and love about this series is that we're kind of going ahead of people that may be looking and saying, "Hey, I want to do this," and for sure, if we can do it, everybody, you can do this. But being able to glean from our experiences and be able to take some of our lessons and apply them into what they're doing now. That is really exciting to me. That really motivates me because it really is about sharing our experiences so that others can benefit from it, so that others can learn and they can really truly again benefit from it.
You brought up orientation, Kim, which just makes me
Mhm.
think we might have to continue this,
Yeah.
at least from the parent series. You and I might have to continue a podcast
Yeah.
series
Yeah.
of
Wow.
freshman year from our perspective as
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
homeschool parents. But
And
I guess
there's
this,
two, and
and
there's
there's two.
two,
Yeah.
there's two, that freshman year experiences. What is that like? How does that differ from some of your more traditional peers? Are you experiencing things differently, or
Mm,
maybe you're experiencing some things the same?
yeah.
These are questions that are worth exploring. I'm
This is
excited about
this is
that.
more of a question than for you, Kim, because it's something
Yeah,
I've been thinking about. We talked earlier
yeah.
how we went to college decades
Mm-hmm.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both said we only applied to one college. It just seems like such a different, it's like
Right.
ancient history. We had,
Completely.
paper applications and mailed
Mm-hmm.
decisions and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing about our college experience, or at least I'll speak for myself, is I remember I only called my parents like once a week because it was expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
I had like a calling card and so it was very infrequent in terms of
Yeah.
communication with parents. And of course, now we have cell phones, we're constantly
Right.
connected. And so one of the things I've been thinking, I don't even think I've talked to you about this yet, Molly, but one of the things I've been thinking about is, you know, how often do we communicate with them? How often do you mind us communicating with
Right.
you? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a different experience for
Mm-hmm.
them because of the different
Mm-hmm.
world that we're in.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
we provide that space and that freedom? And this, I don't think has anything to do with being homeschooled. I
Yeah.
think parents are always sort of wondering, how much is
Yeah.
too much? How often do we communicate?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts, Kym, and then
Yeah.
Molly
So,
and Samuel
it's
can say what
interesting.
is
Yeah,
enough.
I know, right? They're going to be really because really they're going to be the ones that are going to decide, right?
Yeah.
But it's
But I mean,
interesting
like
that
I
you say
text my
that.
mother every day,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
now, today.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I just think it's interesting to think about what
Yeah.
that experience would be like for them. So yeah, what were you gonna say,
So,
Kim?
yeah, I was going to say from my perspective, it's interesting, and I think it goes back to when we talked earlier about that relationship that you
Yeah.
build with your kids, and because we've homeschooled and because we've always been with one another, what that's like and what that's going to look like when suddenly, and I will tell you personally, this was me personally, and so Samuel, I don't want you to take this on, okay? This is just your mama, okay? But there's a part of me that's like, I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss, the
Yes.
banter. Like Samuel and I, honestly, to see the two of us in a store, you could be rolling film. Like it could be a TV show. It's so crazy, but it's fun. Like we have this wonderful relationship, this wonderful banter that happens between the two of us. Um, and I realized during this process that, and as we get closer to him deciding that I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but having said that, yes, I'm going to miss that. I wouldn't trade him going away and experiencing all that college has for him in the world. And
Mm.
if that means I only get like a, hey mom, I'm still alive. Okay. I'm okay with that. I
Right.
do want that I'm still alive, mind you, Samuel. But yeah. So for that, I think that's part of also us releasing our kids into their future.
Right.
Our releasing them says we do release it. We've done all this pouring into you. We've done all that we've done. But then at some point now, here's our time to just, let you fly. You're the little bird that's
Yeah.
going out on the net and you are flying and you are literally for both of you. I see both of you soaring, soaring.
Mhm.
And if that means again that it's not as frequently that we have these conversations, that's okay. I'm going to take great comfort in knowing that you're soaring and you're living your life and you are literally in my head, you are living your best college life and preparing for this incredible future that awaits you post college.
I love that, Kim. I'm curious what you would both say. What advice do you have for parents? And of course, you're not on campus yet, but as you're thinking about soaring and being on your own in dorm life, um, what would you say, kind of to parents, to us, on providing that space for you?
Yeah. Um, Obviously, I still want to, be able to talk and, um, tell you about my day and all the fun things I'm doing. But I also do want to make sure I have that, um, space and that time to go be, doing either academics or extracurriculars or all those things that college has to offer. So I think a healthy mix of both. And I don't know if I'll know what that healthy mix is until I'm on campus,
Right.
but healthy mix.
And maybe it's just about, constantly communicating
Yeah,
about that,
Yeah,
am I
yeah,
texting you too often?
yeah. Like asking the real questions and being
Right.
okay with the answer,
Yes.
right? Being
Right.
okay
Yeah.
if you say, yeah, mom, it's a little too much. Okay, I
Right.
love you. You let me know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Right.
probably gonna
Right.
have to send you my class schedule to let you know that, hey, I'm in class. Please don't
Don't.
call.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll call. I'll hit you up afterwards or when I'm
I'll
done.
take that idea.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I am
Great.
definitely gonna miss like the banter and whatnot.
Hmm.
Driving the car, just you and I, just
Hmm.
just talking. You know,
Mhm.
about anything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you have lots of talking then to do over the
Yeah.
next 10 days.
Mm.
Miles and miles of seeing the country and hopefully solidifying some decisions and maybe ruling out others and kind of thinking about what's next. And yeah, Kym, I think we might have to do another follow-up when decisions are finally made. But this series I have found to be so much fun. I've gotten some great feedback from others. You have too, Kym, and
Yes.
just really, it's been such an amazing experience, not only as a homeschooling parent, but certainly going through this senior year college admissions process, and just so grateful to have Molly and Samuel here to share their thoughts and reflections, and to be continued, I think.
I think so too.
Well, Kym Kent, Samuel, Molly, thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast, and best wishes for a phenomenal freshman year of college.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having
Thank you
me.
for having us.
Have a great
Yeah,
year.
thank you.